Welcome to the Veterinary Project Podcast, episode 027.
Welcome to the show created by vets featuring absolutely no pets. This is the Veterinary Project Podcast, hosted by Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light. Our resident veterinarians have swapped out their stethoscopes in favor of microphones to bring you the Veterinary Project Podcast, a show focused on real conversations, aimed to connect this amazing profession full of remarkable people. Through the sharing of collective stories and wisdom, and connecting over the many unique challenges we face, we invite you to join our community of veterinary professionals leading intentional lives. And now, here are the hosts of the Veterinary Project Podcast, Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light.
Welcome back to the Veterinary Project Podcast. Yours truly, Dr. Michael Bugg, Dr. Jonathan Light. Another week, another great guest. What's shaking, Mike?
You're 100% correct on another great guest. That was awesome. I know we're gonna dive into that. As to what's shaken, what are we, February 10th here when we're recording this?
Sure is.
For me, what is shaking is, we're a month into 2021, and I had all these goals, and then quarterly goals, monthly goals. And I kind of lifted my head up last week, give or take, last week or last 2 weeks, and was like, man, I've kind of taken my eye off the ball on some of my goals. So I don't want to say I'm resetting, I'm refocusing, to make sure that I'm still pushing strong. We want to add some apartments to the portfolio. So yeah, that's kind of my where I'm at.
I've seen it in your conversations, even in the last week. And I mentioned it to my wife in post, is that because, hey, we've been doing a lot of strategy talk around this podcast in the veterinary community, and you can see that reset happening with you. And I think that's pretty cool because it's February. Most people have already given up on their goals by February of the year that they've set them. So kudos to you.
Well, thank you. I mean, this will happen many times throughout the year to me, right? This is I know myself. I'll set these huge goals and I'll drive towards them. And then, you'll kind of lose a bit of steam and you have to kind of reset, get re-inspired, refocused, and then keep going, keep that momentum. Like, don't let it grind to a halt.
I see a session podcast recording right here because I want to know more about that. But focus of today's conversation is with a different person. So let's hold on to that. I like it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, tell us about you. We got a little bit of time.
I guess we do have a little bit of time. We're a little bit shorter today. Lots happening on the personal front. We, are moving along with Bridgeland Veterinary Clinic. So we received conditional approvals late last week, which is super exciting. Step 50 of 1,000. We're on our way. We're in our pre-recording, have a discussion. My wife and I, we were brainstorming this weekend. So for many that won't know, my wife is an executive assistant. She has worked with a number of individuals in C-suite executive positions. And her and I, sometimes when we're working together, and this is kind of a deep conversation, quick, when my dad and I were working when we were younger, we'd get a little bit frustrated with each other. There's stubbornness on both parts, and it was a little bit harder to work on some projects together. And I have personally carried that forward a little bit when my wife and I have worked together on renovation projects and such. So for this, and in this brainstorming session, I consciously told myself, Jonathan, shut up, let her do what she's good at, because she's way better at it than I am. And we had a great session. We brought a babysitter in, we sat down, we worked through some of the planning that needs to happen in the next month or two. And holy heck, like, she over-delivered. We got a number of things done already and or next steps. And I couldn't have done it on my own. So again, going back to earlier conversations that you and I have had about who, not how, now I've got an amazing individual. She is an active partner in this, and she has a skill set that I don't have. So a really big realization week for me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so happy for you guys, because that's deeper than some people may realize on first listen, to recognize that. The other cool thing is oftentimes there's answers just right in front of you, right? Like, you guys are married, your partners, like husband and wife. Candace has an amazing skill set. It's right there. She wants to be involved. You just got to, get out of her way, and amazing things happen.
Well, that's it. Open the door. And she's asked multiple times to open the door. So again, this is that first, she's involved in the architectural designs. We're talking color palettes right now, of which I am horrible with. And we're making great progress very quickly, and it's a lot of fun. This is a great part. We've done, multiple renovations, 6, 7, 8 now, on different rooms, etc., in residential area. This is the fun part. We love this.
Yeah. Nice. I'm happy for you.
That's what's happening in our world. Let's move on though. Let's move next steps. As per always, first off, we go to our quick tip.
All right. So quick tip, I kind of thought of this while we were recording the episode. So you're going to see a theme of developing trust pop up in this conversation. And I was kind of tying it to a saying in the stock market world. And I think it really fits with trust. So in the stock market world, there's a saying where the stock market takes the stairs up and the elevator down, meaning it takes a long time to build up and then it can crash down at any moment. And I was thinking, man, that is really similar to how trust is built. It takes time, it takes effort. You have to take the stairs to build that up, but it can crash down on you quickly if you take that for granted and stop putting in the effort. So that's my quick tip, is with building trust. Think of kind of stairs up, put in the time, put in the work, because it is worth it.
Thanks for the quick tip, Mike. That is a great one. And I think that resounds perfectly with our guest today. On our recording today, we have Dr. Trevor Hook. Trevor took his undergraduate studies in animal sciences at the University of Alberta and graduated with honors in veterinary medicine from the University of Saskatchewan in 2011. After graduating, he started at Central Veterinary Clinic, which is a mixed animal practice in Ponoka, Alberta, and became a partner there in 2015. The practice expanded into a new facility in 2016 and recently established a second location. Trevor's amazing. He's received the ABVMA Young Vet of the Year Award in 2015 and was also selected for the CVMA Emerging Leaders Program in 2018. And Central Veterinary Clinic has received multiple awards for its strong mentorship and teaching environment. Trevor has a special interest in equine performance horse medicine, orthopedic surgery, and dairy herd management. Trevor and his wife Desiree have 3 young children, and if you don't find him at work, you're going to find him wrestling with those kids. In his spare time, he enjoys spending time with his family in the outdoors, hiking, canoeing, mountain biking, adventure racing, and really playing any sport, especially hockey. Very quickly in this conversation, you're going to hear the passion that exists with Trevor. You're going to hear him discuss some of the early challenges that he had in his career, talking about the grass being greener on the other side, before moving into ownership and expanding their practice, what it looks like to be a community member and giving back in a big way, and looking at veterinary medicine as not a job, but a passion and something that he so much enjoys loving doing. We finish off the conversation by looking at the other side as well, too, where the rose glasses might not be all there, and talking about some of the stressors. So please hold on to that. Really important. They have a very busy mixed animal practice, and this is a conversation worth listening to. So without further ado, Dr. Trevor Hook. Trevor, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Really excited to have this conversation. Again, we say that with every single guest, and every single guest ahead of coming on here feels they say they're nervous. Not sure if they should be on there. It was no different with Trevor when we had our pre-recording conversation, but just like all of our other guests, really happy to have you on here because you bring such a wealth of knowledge. And from the mixed animal side, really looking forward to diving deep into this conversation today. So thank you.
Yeah, you bet. It's a great honor, you guys. It's wonderful to see the development of your podcast and how it's grown. I've really enjoyed. I've listened to all but one, I think, and it's been really good. I was joking with John earlier today or yesterday, and when you just phoned me about, before we get this going today, and I was like, yeah, if you need somebody to just fill a hole, plug a mixed animal vet in there.
and I told him we had multiple comments where people want more of that out here. So
yeah.
Look at that, okay. Our first plugger.
Yeah, you bet. No, good stuff. Honored to be here for sure.
Excellent. A place where I'd like to start, Trevor, with us today is a little bit of discussion around your early career. Tell us about what it looked like coming out of school and or even before the end of school, expectations as compared to reality.
Yeah, you bet. So, I was definitely spent a lot of time in the large animal side of things in vet school, and coming out, I always, envisioned myself going on to do an equine internship and, wherever that led me after that. But, I had a longtime girlfriend at the time, and now my wife of 7 years, and we dated for 7 years before that. So, she was ready to get our life, moving on beyond school, right? She'd done 4 years of undergrad. She had a really good career with the Saskatoon Colostrum Company, and I think she envisioned our life going a little different than more school, and so. It was about compromise and sacrifice. And so we changed our, we worked together to figure out what would work best for the both of us. And I ended up in mixed animal practice in Central Alberta.
And tell us a little bit about, you're not from Ponoka, you end up in Ponoka. Tell us about what that process looked like in terms of looking at that small town as a potential first place out of school.
Sure. So I interviewed all over, knew I wanted to come back to Alberta. My family's here. My brothers are here. And so I interviewed all over Alberta, and at once I'd narrowed it down to a couple practices. Then it was based on, what would work best for Dez's career and work, my wife, what would work best for proximity to my family, where could I do some horse work, and maybe grow that into something that I had dreamed of, right? And, I still, didn't not want to do cows and small animals. It was just, in big dreams, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's what your niche was in school and what you'd look
So
at.
I had it down to actually 2 practices by the end of that interviewing process, and we picked Ponoka.
Excellent.
Yeah,
and so you get into Ponoka, you spend a couple of years, you're working hard, you're learning, and then that green grass starts growing.
Yeah, you bet.
Tell us what that looked like.
And I think it's not an uncommon challenge that a lot of new grads will go through. I don't think it's unique to my situation at all. But I think after 1 to 2 years of practice, you're more comfortable in your role wherever you are. And we know, vets are very goal-oriented people. We've ever since, before vet school, you're driving to get the best grades so you can get into vet school. Well, for me that way, and a lot of us. And then in vet school, you're just working to graduate and, become a vet, right? And then after that, 2 years out, you become a little lost, and you're like, oh, where do I see myself in 5 and 10 years? And for me, I was like, do I see myself in 30 years doing mixed practice in a small town of 7,000 people? And, then I started doubting what I should do. And, you're trying to figure out ideas for change. And lo and behold, I got some colleagues of mine threw my name out there and they're like, hey, you want to come join us? And of course, I'm like the cow or the horse, the grass is greener on the other side at that time. You're kind of unsettled, and certainly an opportunity is there. And so I took it. And 6 months later, I was back in Ponoka. So it didn't work out.
I believe the direct quote was, you could have told your old boss you went around the world for 6 months. And
yeah, you bet. It would have been a lot cheaper and less stressful to go on a holiday. But that's the way, that's how you learn. And I don't regret it now, But.
I think that's a big piece there. There's lots of people that won't even take that first step for the fear and or for that possible regret. Because, hey, guess what? 50-50 chance. This might work. This might not work.
Yeah,
How did you work through that, especially given you're already married? You already had a life going.
Yeah, for sure. And I was really heavily, I put a lot of extra time into my job. It was because, I wanted to grow the horse side, and the practice wasn't really that equine oriented. And so I spent a lot of weekends and extra hours just doing any horse that I could put my hands on. And so then you develop this clientele that, you've built trust with. And I felt like I was betraying them a little bit. I felt like I was betraying the vets that I worked with for all those 2 years. But I think a lesson for me is leave on good terms. Don't, if there's an opportunity to come back, you might want it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so like after I left, I knew pretty quick that had been the wrong decision for me. And my wife didn't want it to move either. Like I had really close friends in the area. And so I phoned up Bill. I remember like 2 months dead of winter. It was like a really cold, long winter, a lot of below -20s, tons of snow. And so you're cooped up in your house with not a lot, and now my social life is all upbeat, like, completely disrupted. And so I remember I phoned Bill and he's like, sure, when do you want to come back? And, that's like, that sure makes you feel pretty good, right?
Yeah. That must have been a big relief.
Yeah, you bet. And so it's a lesson for me now as an owner to replicate those kind of behaviors. I was lucky. I had really good mentors here. I feel very fortunate. Yeah, everybody should get a chance to work with a guy like Dr. Bill. He always had this natural demeanor about him, just to make you feel good about yourself no matter what you're doing. I remember I'd be doing like a cat spay or something pretty simple for vets in general, and he'd always act like he was interested and like it was the first time he'd seen it, and he'd probably seen like 10,000, like nothing special to him, but he made you feel like that was the most important thing at the time. And nice. I'm not naturally like that, but I have to work like that. But I think that's a big goal of mine.
Excellent.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I jump in here? Because I think this is important. We see a lot of guests. We talk to a lot of people that reach that moment of making a decision where the grass may look greener on the other side, and sometimes it actually is, and they make that choice and off they go. And sometimes it's not. So when you reflect on it, like what kind of lessons can you give our listeners, for the next sort of opportunity, quote unquote, that comes along where the grass may look greener? So how do you analyze those now, knowing what you know?
Like certainly, and I did it at the time, you got to make a list of like, write it down. Like, what do you like about your life now? And not just the work, but like, what's your commute to work? Like my commute here is 2 minutes to work. Like certainly I drive a lot of work from farm to farm, but like 2 minutes to work, I can go home for coffee if I want,
Yep.
And those are the little things that you don't always think about when you're looking at that other practice. You see the fancy new, exam room with the brand new digital X-ray and the team of like perfectly dressed matching techs. I don't know, whatever.
Whatever's the allure.
It's the small details that you sometimes forget to incorporate in that evaluation, right? And like commute, like an extra, like I was commuting when I left, I was commuting like an hour every day. That's like 2 hours of your life now spent in a car versus 2 minutes, 4 minutes.
Yeah.
That is like the value of that to me now, especially is incredible, right? Especially with little kids.
Yeah.
And I don't, sometimes some of these things you'll never appreciate until you try something new. And I don't think it's a bad thing to try something new.
Yep.
And, we always think of like, when we look at our team now, we're like the ones that seem to appreciate their positions a little bit more are the ones that have worked somewhere else. Right.
Yeah. That experience is there.
And sometimes there's only experience that'll teach you that. Right. But I think the best way is to try to, list those things out, write them down, and try to think of everything. Nice. As simple as walking out the front door every day. What do you look out when you walk out your front door? Yep. Is it 100 other apartment buildings, or is it like a river?
Yep.
Yeah.
But we're very career and we're so driven as professionals. A lot of times we don't often look at the trees and smell the air and those kind of things, right? And I think it's really important.
I think it's a great point, because we can be so alpha, goal oriented, like you're saying, and we can lose track of how different little things make us feel. When you were saying that, I can picture it. You walk outside and you see a river and it's open air. For me, the feeling is completely different than, rat race commuting for an hour.
You bet.
It doesn't matter what, I'll use pay just because that's what people can focus on. It doesn't matter if you're getting paid $5,000 more if you feel way worse.
No, for sure. And
and sometimes only experience can show that.
Yeah. Sometimes
experience.
The amount of stress those things can create or alleviate. Like, we go for walks in the woods because that is a major de-stressor. And like, if you live in the woods, every time you walk to your truck, you're getting some of that, whereas versus there's no way commuting is not stressful most of the time, right? Maybe unless you're listening to the veterinary podcast.
Yeah, thank you for the plug.
Yeah. Love the plug.
But so those are some lessons I learned, and I don't think it's an easy thing to learn or prepare for and plan for. I think sometimes you just got to do it. And we did our best and didn't work out, but I don't regret that I tried, for sure.
Looking at a portion of what you said when you moved elsewhere and missing your social community and the upheaval that was, tell me a bit about what community means to you, especially in the context of rural mixed practice, because you said some really interesting pieces in our pre-recording conversation around not only are these individuals your clients, they are your friends. Yeah,
you bet. And I think it's more unique to rural practice. And I think for me especially, but I think across the board, if you want to be long-term, have success long-term in rural practice, you got to become part of the community. Like last night after a pre-recording, I was doing 4-H Zoom meetings with some 4-H kids. Nice. And, I don't get paid for that. I don't get anything back from that other than I'm giving back to the people that, probably indirectly or directly support my livelihood. Plus it gives me we're all in the pursuit of happiness, right? That is very rewarding to me, to support my community and help my neighbors, right? So I was telling Johnny yesterday that my neighbor's dog, I saw him at the clinic, and he's had an ear infection. I wasn't the doctor treating him, or on Saturday. And then I was thinking to me, man, should I just take my neighbor's dog home? Because I'm going home for lunch anyways.
Yep.
And I didn't, because I was like, oh, then who's going to pay his bill? He's have to phone in. It's a big pain in the butt, right? But those little things, when I leave for holidays, my neighbor's going to water my horses,
Yep.
or catch them if they get out, which has happened more than once, And if I need a trailer or a bobcat, I could phone somebody up tomorrow and get it in my backyard.
Yep.
And no strings attached.
So there are some individuals that I've worked with now, Trevor, that would say, hey, there's stress involved with that, because from a work-life balance, when you are off, so to say, when you're not in the clinic, not being a practicing veterinarian, and you're in the grocery store, you're still seeing your clients. How do you deal with that?
Oh, yeah. And half the time I don't remember who their dog is. They're telling me about their dog. And I felt really bad because they're like, oh, I should know that guy's dog. But to me, that's that doesn't stress me out at all. And maybe I'm unique in that situation. I think it's different for these emerge clinics that are on 24/7. They work way more intensively than I do, I think, for the most part. But these are people I'll go play hockey with after and drink beer. And I don't mind, I have a skill and a unique training that, people would die to have. And if I can give that to people, that makes me feel really good, And I think, there's so much stress in that. And if it makes me feel good, that's endorphin release. That makes that reduces my stress. And you know, if you're one of those individuals that need to hide, you know, like wants that separation, that's fine. But I'm just not one of those people. And for me, it's created a lot of happiness, reward, and it's given my, and now especially with a young family, an environment where my kids, it's an environment where my kids and my neighbors' kids can grow up, where we can, you know, we can do it together and create, you know, educate these kids and develop them into contributing adults, right? I think, you know, so.
I just got to jump in on, it's making me smile because I follow you and your wife's Instagram. And very often I'll see pictures of like the whole family, you know, doing a calving or treating a calf.
Yeah, you bet.
The other ones I really like is early morning sunrises, like coming over your clinic. And that is like, when we were talking about who do we have on as a guest, I was like, Hook. I mean, this guy, well, I mean, it's obvious, like you're an inspiration when I watch that and listen to how you say it. Like you have something special in it. It's, I would say it's like work-life integration, you know, like you seem to have mastered that, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I feel very blessed. Like I take my kids and family to my clients all the time. Like, and especially now with COVID, it's all you can do. Like you can't visit your family, but you can go show them cows in the barn. So it's awesome. But yeah, I don't know. I think to me, it's really important that my kids see me working, because working's part of life. We have to do it. You know, I have to pay my bills. I have to put a roof over my head. I have to feed my children. And I think work is really good for our happiness and our welfare. It gets me outside. It gets me thinking. It it challenges my brain. It challenges my body. Work should be a good thing, but you know, it's not easy. And we've certainly seen it as we've grown from a practice of 4 vets to 11. You know, your dynamics of the practice change a lot, and there's a lot more management and human resources work that needs to go into it to make an environment a place where you want to come to work. But that's always been really important to us, and I think a legacy from my mentor, Dr. Bill. You know,
any tips or tricks specifically, Trevor? Like, it's innate in you, knowing you since the time that you've blended those. You work hard. We've all played hockey together. Like you have those skills. How do you consciously have to think about how you now lead that in your newer veterinarians coming in, and or even those that have experience or now you're leading?
Yeah, I don't know. We're still learning, right?
Always.
There's no easy answers, but I think one, you've got to make it fun. You've got to recognize, especially those young grads' successes. And we just went through reviews recently, and it's always like talk to your associates. You never know what are their challenges. Like one of our new grads, she's 2 months out or 3 months out, and well, longer now, it goes so fast. But she's like, I wanted to quit after my 2 years. And I was like, I had no idea. I thought you were doing awesome, you know? Yeah. And so one is like, you gotta talk to them. And when when you're a practice of 4, you do that every day. You see every day. But there's weeks now with 11 vets, I won't see some of my colleagues for like a week or 2 or more. Yep. Right. And so I think that's how you can make it better. Communicate, talk, hash out issues.
Do you set aside
like I don't think there's a secret sauce, but you gotta just put the time into it.
And do you set aside time, or does that fall into your normal day-to-day?
Yeah, we're trying to do better. I'm still busy. I work more than my associates still. Yep. 9 days a week, I can still outbill most of them, right?
Yep.
So I think it's a priority for our practice. We're trying to slowly get there. It's so important, though. You look at it, and it wasn't so important when you're 4 vets. Yep. But now when you're 11, it becomes bigger problems, bigger issues. And if it's not a happy place to work, people they don't enjoy it, though they don't want to come to work.
Yep.
And then it's like, you're not getting happiness from coming to work. And it should be a happy, fun place. And I don't know, we do such cool stuff. I don't know, I think mixed practice is a really awesome place to be. And I'm biased, I guess. But
let's talk about a couple of those cool things. You're in an area where you're in between two major centers,
for sure,
even three if you want to include Red Deer. You have opportunity to provide skill set to your new vets, but also for your patients where referral is not possible. What does that look like in 2021 from Trevor Hook's perspective around needing to refer versus taking the chance, having the skill set, because that's important, but actually still going forward with some of the procedures that you guys do? Because you do some advanced procedures, which in the main city would sometimes be, should we be doing those or not?
Yeah, you bet. I think we've always strived at our practice to do the best medicine. And if you're not, you should, that's what I always think. You should compare yourself to the best. And if you're doing the same thing as the best out there, I do not think that's malpractice. Because if I have the same pain control, same surgical approach, same outcomes, why is that any different than anybody else?
Yeah, a boarded specialist doing it. Yep,
for sure. And I'm not going to we're not going to ever take on issues where we won't do the best medicine.
Okay.
And
so how do you define that? Has that been over time? You've gotten more risk sensitive or risk
for sure.
concerned?
Like in rural, I think you have more opportunity to do that because there's more financial constraints. I'm sure it's everywhere, but I don't know, maybe it's just more cultural, but like our goal is always to help the clients and help the patients as best we can. And if they want to try it here cheaper than they could do it in the big cities, then we'll tackle it as long as we feel it's within our skill set. Yep. Yeah.
So you guys have also taken advanced training. You do TPLOs out of your facility. That's the one that comes to mind for me.
For sure.
And you've done a number of them, and a number of the partners have taken that training.
Yeah, you bet. And in our opinion, we do as good a job as anybody else out there. And we feel that it's okay.
Excellent. Yep.
I don't know if that's a good answer, but
there is no right answer or wrong answer. Yeah. It's just, it's really interesting to get a different perspective because we have so many grads that come out now and don't want to even do the basics sometimes.
I know, like mature spays.
Exactly. Mature spays, cystotomies, simple enterotomies.
Yeah.
Those basic procedures.
Yeah. And you look at the deficit of veterinarians out there is only going to get worse over the next 10 years. And, I don't think the specialists will be able to serve that demand long term, but maybe I'm wrong.
So Trevor, how do you, when you're approaching, say, a TPLO, and you're just starting into that world, so you take the training, and eventually you're gonna do your first one. And when I see your Instagram and when I chat with you, I mean, you are excited about learning.
Yeah.
Right? And that in that process, there is a chance that things will go wrong, but excitement seems to be the predominant feeling.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what you got to keep learning in this profession. You got to keep pushing yourself. Otherwise you're not going to enjoy it. You're going to get in a lull and you'll quit. I don't want to vaccinate dogs every day, all day. Even herd health now, it's like physically the demand on your body gets harder and harder and it's more routine. Yep. So you want to do something else, right? And there's the opportunities in vet med are endless, I think. And don't get me wrong, that first TPL was you pop some omeprazole before you go to surgery. And I'm lucky and I have the vets here that I work with, Dr. Layton, Dr. Kelly, we take those courses together. So then it's not just me doing the surgery, it's me and him. So I can blame him if it goes wrong. Just kidding. But you got people to bounce ideas off. We have really good relationships with surgeons, horse surgeons. I have some of the best mentors have been some of the horse surgeons. And they're I've had horse surgeons tell me to do colic surgeries. I'm like, hell no, I am not touching that. But like, you got to find those mentors that are going to believe into you and support those decisions. And certainly there's cases where, and sometimes you just got to learn when you got to build trust. If the client trusts you, if you communicate that effectively, it's going to go good. Even if if you have poor outcomes, which happen, even for boarded surgeons, I've seen bilateral TPL plates blow apart, and I didn't do them. And infections, I've taken TPL plates on dogs that were infected, But if the client knows the risks, the expectations, and they have trust in you, it's going to go good. And, we got pretty special clients around here, I think. I'm sure every vet says that, right?
So great.
It's the people, right? Yeah.
Not everything is all roses, Trevor. In our pre-recording, we talked about business being one of your main stressors in life.
Mm-hmm.
You run and operate a very successful mixed animal practice that has a large number of team members, has all the stresses of, a large business in the veterinary field. Tell us a little bit about that. What keeps you up at night for all of those that are looking at a mixed animal practice as a, possible future venture for them?
Yeah. So we've grown a lot. In 2016, we expanded into a new 13,000 square foot facility. And then last year we bought a new practice in a neighboring community. And so our expansion has been really fast. And like, we're still not handling the management side as well as we could, but we're working on it, right? I think that'll always be a work in progress. So that's definitely one of the things that keeps me up at night.
Okay. Making
sure my team is happy and wants to come to work. And there's always going to be little issues that come up, and communication problems, and job description,
variability, or getting them figured out.
Yeah, exactly. All those little details, they're important, and you want consistency and fairness. And so that's been a big challenge.
Yep.
The other one sorry.
Oh, no, I was just seeing if there's anything different from your experience with your colleagues, all of us friends that you've heard small animal versus mixed animal, that would be of particular stress.
And like training, like even my new grads now, they come in and they're like, I want to do hawk injections. I can show you technically how to do hawk injections. I can show you what to use, what needles to use. I can do that and you'll be good at it. The trouble is, I've worked 10 years for this horse client and they trust me they won't even ask questions now.
Yep.
But if you come out, you got to build that trust. And it doesn't take one visit with me. It takes 6 years.
Yep.
And that's something that's hard for new grads to understand, because they are so excited about doing this cool stuff. And I get it. And like we're part of the learning community, like the UCVM. So we get UCVM vet students. Yep. And like just last week, I was doing the first LDA with them, and they're like so excited to do the whole surgery by themselves. For me, I'm like, frick, I want to get home by 5, right? And that is the difference. And you gotta remember that. For me as a mentor, that's why it's so nice to get these vet students, because you gotta remember these vet students, they're like, I want to spit neuter a cat. That would be the best thing in the world. And you're like, yeah, I want to get home for supper. I want to see my kids tonight. But,
Yep.
And so that's really a big thing. Sorry. Challenges.
No, yep. Just challenges, what it looks like. Yep. And then obviously, you have two partners, which you guys have a great relationship with each other. The ups and downs that go with that. You decided to partner with others versus a lot of veterinarians say, hey, no, I'm only going on this on my own.
For sure. Yeah. And definitely the one thing that keeps me up at night, going back to that question, is the business, like the numbers game.
Yep.
The dynamics of a mixed practice, especially large, and a lot of people don't understand. We don't charge enough for professional fees on the large animal side, especially cattle, bovine. And you rely a lot on pharmaceutical sales, right? And it's a really competitive market.
Yep.
And there's some cutthroat people that are going to come into your backyard and they're willing to dump drugs off without doing any vet work. And so that keeps me up at night for sure.
Something that you said in our pre-recording, which I really appreciated, was that used to keep you up at night. You'd take that personally.
Mm-hmm.
Still do, but it might have improved over time.
Yeah, it's a lot better for sure. Like, it's business, right? And that's the unique aspect of veterinary medicine. It is a business. And if you're not running a successful business, I can't pay my staff. I can't pay myself, right? I can't pay for the rent here.
Yep.
And my teammates, my colleagues, I get to see them grow from new techs, from new vets into like rockin' vets and rockin' techs that like I would trust. I don't even have to ask them, and they're ready to go. And I want to give them a livelihood, and so that side definitely stresses you out when your competitors come in and threaten to take that away. You just I don't think it's ever. Mostly, if you have a good service base, if your clients trust you, they'll support you. But there's still that, anybody, even you and me, if it's 200% more, you're not going to buy it, right? Whether it's a bed or we all price shop, and it's why wouldn't you? You should, right?
Yeah.
So there's challenges there,
and I think this is an important conversation, and I don't know if we've had this on our podcast yet. Lots of times veterinarians will look at being a business owner, owning a veterinary clinic, and the sort of rose-colored side of, okay, I can make more money, and they know there'll be some management, but this intangible sort of underlying stress of, you are sort of responsible for, I don't know how many team members you have, but lots of team members. They each have
over
families.
30 now.
Yeah, so 30 families. They have kids. They need to buy groceries, and there's no way to like quantify that, right? Like we were talking when COVID hits, something completely unexpected, and back in the early days, right? Like early March, where it was still no one knew what this was, right? So I think it's a great thing to point out to people. There is that intangible stress that
for
exists.
sure. And that's the hairline going up. Not the vet sides to me is easy. That's what keeps me up at night for sure. Like, I love the vet work. That is what I do for fun. I'm a vet for fun, But man, that business owner, that is hard. And that's why your podcast is so valuable to me, because you're bringing people that maybe can, have bigger ideas than I could ever dream of. Right. And I can learn from you guys. Always have looked up to you guys, so yeah, for sure.
Well, appreciate being open with that, Trevor. And different direction, and really wanted to ensure we shared both sides of the equation.
For sure.
Yep. Which is there. Timing wise, we are already at our time, which is unbelievable, and exactly what I unfortunately thought would happen for this episode, because there's a lot more in our pre-recording we could have gotten into.
Oh yeah, hopefully it's of value for you guys and the listeners. And
without a doubt, Trevor, without a doubt. But we're not done yet. We are going to go into our impact round, and our impact round as always is a series of short questions, which we're going to put to you. And our first question, Trevor, is, are you a cat or a dog person? And actually, Dr. Reed asked, I should be putting in there bovine or equine.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking for sure.
So I am going to add that on the fly for Curtis.
You bet. If I was gonna, I'm a horse guy for sure. Yeah. And if between cat and dog. So to put my weight in on that debate.
Look at that. We'll give you 1 for 2 on that one.
But cows are pretty close to,
True or false? I knew I wanted to be a veterinarian since I was a kid.
That's right, for sure. Yeah, and I remember a tech came in to my grade 2 class. That's why it's so important to do this thing for kids. Inspire the young generation. Go and do Zoom meetings or go to their classrooms. If one of them wants to be vet, I think that's awesome. And that's where I got my dream. So yeah, for sure. There's my plug for doing community service.
How would your friends describe what you do for a living?
I'd say mostly put my appendages up orifices.
Man, you said that so politically correct. Good job.
What is your favorite hobby?
Oh yeah, I think it's really seasonal, and being a vet is definitely one of my hobbies. I work as a vet for fun, but also it's summer. I'm hiking, mountain biking, canoeing, swimming, winter skiing, hockey. Hockey's always been a big one. I really miss it this year for sure. But yeah, and hanging out with my kids for sure.
Nice.
So it's really seasonal.
What in this world are you most grateful for?
Oh, everything. Mike, you're great. You know, that diary where you write 3 things that you're grateful for every day. I've made a non-conscious effort of doing that for a long time. Like when I walk out in the morning, smell the air, look at the sky. There's so much to be grateful for. And my family's a huge one for sure, but my career, my community, this country,
yep,
our friends. Yeah. My health for sure. Yeah. Everything.
This might be my favorite answer to this question, Trevor. Just because like looking at you, like I can feel it. When you said everything, I was it kind of hit me. I was like, that was a great answer.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Mike.
Yep. Awesome. Well, we are coming towards the end of our podcast recording today, Trevor. I am certain there are people that are going to want to reach out, check out your Instagram, talk with you about business, mixed animal practice, community service. If they want to do so, what's the best way of getting a hold of you?
Yeah, Instagram is pretty good. Just look up Trevor Hook or my email, drhook@centralvetclinic.ca.
Nice. And with that, before we sign off, thanks for today, Trevor.
Yeah, thanks a lot, guys. It's an honor, man. I never thought you'd ever ask me, so that's pretty cool.
Look at that.
And I think you're doing a great thing. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, and I just got to chime in with the thanks too. I mean, you really are an inspiration. When I would recommend everyone follows your Instagram at minimum, because as a veterinarian and for the veterinary profession, I mean, we need more people like you out there.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, and anybody's always welcome to swing in, and we'll take them. We'll get them putting some arms up cow butts.
And with that, Trevor, as always for our Veterinary Project podcast guests, what message do you want to leave for the veterinary community?
Oh yeah, work hard, be grateful, and have fun.
Thank you for listening to the Veterinary Project Podcast. As a recap on behalf of our hosts, the Veterinary Project Podcast will be releasing new episodes weekly, so be sure to tune in as we bring you more conversations aimed at helping you enjoy a life well lived. If you enjoyed what you heard on the show and you want to stay in the know, please like, love, and or subscribe to the podcast on the listening platform of your choosing, as we're available on all the usual suspects. If you know of others that may benefit from these conversations, we'd love it if you please share the show with them, as this will help us grow our community to reach more and more veterinary professionals. Speaking of which, if you are a veterinary professional and would like to get connected with more like-minded individuals who are joining us on this journey, please send an email to the veterinaryprojectpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll invite you to be a part of our private Facebook group. General feedback, requests for information, or perhaps requests to be a guest on the show can also be sent to the Veterinary Project Podcast @gmail.com. Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light, thank you for listening to the show, and we'll catch you again next week for another episode of the Veterinary Project Podcast. Bye for now.